So what I'm going to show you is how to take hardwood cuttings, and hardwood cuttings we take in winter. It's important we take them in winter when there's no leaves on them and when they're not growing, when they're completely dormant. They're called hardwood because, self-explanatory, the whole cutting is hard, it's like a stick. Now they're easy, they're probably the easiest cutting to take out of all the different types of cuttings, but they're probably the least successful. You probably get about 50% usually that take, depending on what you take. Willow and dogwood tend to be a bit better than that, but you can get a better percentage, but they're easy to take and you can take lots of them from a few branches, so it's worth doing. It's really worth doing. And some plants, it's the best way to propagate some plants. Now the beauty of taking cuttings is that you can get new plants for free, completely free, apart from a bit of compost, which you've probably already got anyway. They grow quicker, much quicker than seeds. Some plants can only be grown from cuttings, and you get an exact replica of the parent plant. If you sow from seed, sometimes you can get a different colour, it can grow a different height, but you get an exact copy, a clone of the original plant. So you can see it's very frosty today, and the plants are definitely dormant. All the leaves have dropped off and they're not growing. But I just wanted to show you some cuts that I've made here. So this here, you see how that's a nice, neat, clean cut. I've taken it right down to where this other one is branching off. I've not left a snag on it here, so that should heal well. I ain't taken it too close, but it should heal over that, and this one will be fine. There shouldn't be any dieback. But if we look at this one here, this is a poor cut because there's no node there, there's no bud that's going to grow from there. So all that's going to happen potentially with this is just going to die. It's not going to regrow. It's going to die all the way back down here, potentially get infection and die back into the plant. The first things you're going to look for is the maturity of your plant. So that's how old it is or how well grown it is, in terms of providing enough material for cuttings. So you want it to have a reasonable thickness, so a pencil size or a bit bigger is good. You don't want to be taking it from plants that are too young, that haven't provided enough cutting material, and also you want the plants to establish themselves first before you start taking cuttings off them. You also want to make sure you're not taking it from a plant that's got any pests or diseases. So if we look at this blackcurrant, which is I've just taken a cutting of there. I don't know if you can see this from here. I'm hoping you can, but along here, along the stem, you can see lots of little bumps. And those bumps are scale insect. So if I take cuttings from that, I mean, even if I rub them off, if I take cuttings from that, the chances are that that's going to grow on the new cuttings. It's going to be there. It's going to infect the new cuttings. And what these do is suck the sap. Now I could wipe them off, but there's potential that there's probably eggs and stuff in there, or some little immature ones that I can't see, and they'll come back to life in spring. So it's best to get rid of that. But I've got some raspberries that I'd cut. Now previously, what I'd done is I'd sort of just dropped them in. I'd measured it up on the outside, cut it, and then put them in. But I've been shown a different way by Russ when we went to Hardwood College, which works much better actually. So the important bits to know are the nodes, which are the buds where it's got all the growth hormones, contains the highest amount of growth hormones, and that's going to grow your new shoots, and hopefully it's going to recognise that it's not got any roots from there. The position for growing, concentration of growth hormones, and it's going to decide, right, I need to grow some roots to survive, so it's going to grow roots from there. So it's important to remember that. And the bit in between is called the internode. So the bit of stem where there's no buds in between is called the internode. So you don't want to cut there because you're going to get the growth from these nodes, not from in between in the internode. So that bit you don't want to be making a cut there. So what we tend to do is we tend to make a nice flat cut just below where the node is. You can see it there, and then we'll insert that into the pot, all the way down to the bottom, and then you're gonna see it there, and then you're gonna count one node up, and you're gonna take a cutting, you're gonna take it at an angle. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. I've been taught that it'll let the water run off. If the water runs on it, it'll let the water run off, so it doesn't sit on top of a flat cutting like it would on a flat cutting and then potentially rot. How well that works I don't know, but also it's important, particularly if you prepare your cuttings before you put them in. If you do a flat cutting at the bottom, flat cut at the bottom, and then you do an angled cut at the top, if you drop it on the floor and then pick it back up and you can't tell which way the buds are facing if they're not pushing up, you know that the flat is the bottom and the angle is the top. And then you put the cuttings around the edge of the pot. And the idea of that is that because there's no roots taking up water at this moment in time, the drainage is better at the side of the pot. There's also a theory that it might warm up a bit better, but the drainage is better than it is in the middle. So you tend to find, the suggestion is that you find that if you put them in the middle, then they'll rot. It'd be interesting to do an experiment and see how truthful that is really. So here we go. Again, I'll do one more for you. So cut just below the node, and then insert it into the pot down to the bottom, and then you count one node above, which is just there, and you put an angled cut just above, and you're gonna count one bud above, one node above, because the less stem you've got sticking out of the compost into the air, the less surface area there is to dry out. So the more moisture that you can keep in there, in that stem, the longer you can prevent it from drying out, the more chance it's got of taking. And what these will do is they'll sit in there over winter because they're dormant, they're not growing, and when we get to spring and it warms up, they'll think, right, burst into life like normal, realise they haven't got any roots, and think, oh, best grow some roots to survive, and then hopefully we'll have some new raspberries for free. So what you want to do is finish that pot off, and you'll put a label in it. Always put a label in it. I tend to put my name on it if we're doing quite a few of us, so we know whose is who. And then you put the type of raspberry, the variety. It's important to put the variety, particularly on fruits, because there's lots of different types of fruit, so you don't get mixed up. And then you just put that outside, give it a bit of a water, put it outside somewhere sheltered, and it'll hopefully grow in spring. Some of these should come to life in spring.